Hi viewers, welcome back. It's been long since we last came back on the Gender Tech podcast. I must say you're welcome to the podcast once again. And today we are going to talk about a topic that has become increasingly important and very relevant in this day and time: the aspects of mental health vis-a-vis artificial intelligence and technology, because we've had people looking good, looking fly online, but actually are battling depression. People are depressed, but going through a lot. And that is something that we're going to demystify today with our mental health expert and psychiatrist. My name is Ruth Hatim, and welcome to the Gender Tech Podcast.
Thank you, Ruth, for the opportunity to be part of this podcast. I am a psychiatrist, as Ruth has mentioned, James Okello. I work at Gulu University, but I also see mentally ill patients at Gulu Regional Referral Mental Health Unit. I'm happy to be part of an opportunity to discuss the link, if any, between mental health and AI, but also to discuss the disconnect, if any, between the two different aspects of mental health and artificial intelligence. We will also hopefully be discussing opportunities for how we can upscale AI so that it can help improve both AI-enabled programming responses, but also mental health outcomes for different people that may not have an opportunity to be part of the interactive, which is to see psychiatrists like myself against the background of decreasing numbers, against the background of what lockdown and COVID informed. So this is a wonderful opportunity for us to touch base with the AI, which has become the buzzword. Everybody talks AI, and I think, Ruth, this gives us an opportunity to, chip in the mental health aspect so that we, after all, there's no health without mental health. So maybe there's no mental health without AI. Thank you.
Thank you. So, doctor, we've had cases where people self-diagnose themselves. They use AI, they use technology. You know, there are chatbots that you can use to ask them questions about your particular condition, and they respond to you. I remember during the lockdown, there is a saying that you shouldn't Google your symptoms, otherwise Google is going to give you responses that will make you feel like you're going to die the next minute. So during the lockdown, I had a chest pain. So when I Googled, I had that particular chest pain showed that it's a sign of a heart attack. And that made me take like 3 tablets of Dexa, because apparently it helps to reduce the inflammation, which is very bad. Dexa is supposed to be taken like 1 tablet at a time. So what do you say about people who are having mental health issues, that they're depressed, they have anxiety, and they feel like speaking to a physical psychiatrist may not help, or they may be stigmatized. They feel that if I'm to speak to a psychiatrist, maybe someone will talk. He or she may talk about it to another person, and before I know it, my whole issue is broadcasted, and that brings that aspect of being embarrassed. You feel very low about yourself. What do you think about this influx of people using technology to self-diagnose themselves?
I think that's a wonderful question because the question has given me an opportunity to say yes and no. On the one hand, and much as we worry about stigma and discrimination when we have a physical interaction with a psychiatrist, which is very understandable, I think the understanding is that mental health or mental illness itself makes you feel stigmatized.
Yeah.
And so you naturally gravitate to wanting to use an opportunity like AI to assess yourself and determine what levels of mental wellness or unwellness you have. On the other hand, unfortunately, if you used AI, and AI, for example, diagnosed you with a mental illness, we haven't reached the level of AI being used as an opportunity for treatment. So there's a lot less there's a lot more about AI being used to screen and diagnose. There's a lot less that is known about AI being used to treat, especially for those that determine that there's an illness that probably needs treatment. And even much further, what we see is an opportunity for AI to be used to promote mental wellness or mental well-being. So from a screening level, there are opportunities for AI. From a prevention level, promoting mental health knowledge and literacy, it's catching on and it's relevant. I think the big issue is a lot of people have difficulties with confidentiality issues as far as the physical interaction is concerned. What we know is that with mental health specialists such as myself, confidentiality is inbuilt in what we do, keeping information under wraps. The danger for AI is that AI, much as it feels attractive, it sounds very attractive, that gives you an opportunity to keep things in-house. The question then is, what beyond screening, there's the what else? So if you diagnose yourself to have a mental illness, the big question is, will you be able to access treatment for which you feel stigmatized? So I think AI should be, in the best case scenario, an opportunity to enable you access mental health care at an interactive level eventually. On the other hand, it also provides those few people who feel discomfort or feel tension about physical interaction, especially at the level of assessing their problems, to actually assess themselves for mental health problems for as long as they have an opportunity to actually get treatment after they've screened themselves.
Yeah, so you'd suggest that after the self-assessment using AI, they should take the next step of going to see the actual psychiatrist.
Yes, yes, and I'm very much, and I think there are a lot of discussions now about the ethics of AI,
Yeah.
issues of confidentiality, because I think the assumption is that AI will keep things confidential. But what we know is every time you're on the internet, there's potential for that information to get lost, especially if it is web-based assessments. So there's a question of regulation, of safety, safeguards need to be put in place. But I also think that after you have assessed yourself, the assessment itself, if you're the type of person that is stigmatized
Yeah.
or doesn't have opportunities for treatment, should be part and parcel of the journey, the pathway towards actually receiving care. So I think AI needs to be utilized by only those that have entertained the possibility that they will eventually seek healthcare from a qualified professional. So for now, we haven't reached at a level where AI will actually treat you.
Yeah.
For some physical interventions, AI is playing a bigger role. For mental health care, which is still very interactive, very social, emotive,
Yeah.
windows of opportunity for treatment to be provided by AI are a work in progress. So I think that's how best we could put it, that there's a window of opportunity to assess yourself if you're stigmatized,
Yeah.
but there's also the danger that you may eventually need to actually have a physical interaction and receive treatment from a professional who, unfortunately, at this point has not been replaced by AI.
By AI. Yeah, you touched about the issue of confidentiality and privacy. I think what we users do not know is that by asking AI or these chatbots these questions, we are actually training them. They use the information that we feed into them to train them to better their responses to the next user. So the aspect of privacy and confidentiality is something that still needs to be debated. You know, because if your information is out there, I don't think you running away from meeting a physical person. You running away from meeting a physical person would have helped, because still you're chatting with an anonymous tool that you do not know what they are going to to do with the information that you're feeding them into. And also, before accessing these chatbots, you always sign in. You should have an account at least, and that account, it's either your Gmail account, and this account captures all the previous records that you had put into. So the issue of privacy and data protection as we leverage AI and chatbots for mental health is something that we really need to look into as consumers of this thing. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think something else which is becoming increasingly important is that, when, for example, a lot of us, there's a there's a there's an upsurge, there's an increase, there's an explosion of interest in non-traditional medicine or non-traditional approaches to healthcare. In part because of the cost of healthcare, which appears to be increasing.
Yeah.
In part because healthcare has become more personalized.
Why is that? Is it because the healthcare professionals charge a lot of money, maybe like in consultations, and, like why do you think people have decided, apart from feeling the feeling that they may be stigmatized, why have they decided to self-diagnose using AI and chatbots instead of going to see a physical doctor?
I think if you look at it from a cost-benefit analysis, we gravitate towards opportunities for self-diagnosing, in part because of the convenience. At the very basic level, the convenience of sitting in your bedroom, the convenience of your bedroom, and you're able to use this app which diagnoses in 5 minutes. The hustle and bustle of, first of all, finding who can diagnose me. The next level is, of course, there's a cost attached to seeing a professional like myself, for example. The cost could even be logistical, transport moving from A to B. The cost could be, if it is a structured care, there's a cost attached to seeing a psychiatrist for a more structured care. I think what we haven't appreciated also is that the cost-benefit analysis should compare AI and the traditional, the interactive physical interaction approaches. Physical interaction, which informed my being a psychiatrist, was based on a lot of investment in evidence building,
Yeah.
determining that this evidence, proof of concept, proof that psychotherapy, for example, works, or psychoeducation, which I give to you, will work to improve your depression symptoms. Proof that the medications that I give you, for example, to treat anxiety, actually make you better. AI doesn't have that advantage, the advantage of being tested in a lab. When we talk about a lab, we don't even mean a physical lab, maybe, but we mean there's this regulated environment that determines A leads to B if you use AI, and A leads to B if you use the physical interactive. So there's a lot of information about what works for physical interaction, the windows of opportunity for physical interaction, and there's a lot less information about what works for AI. So at this point, there's a lot of excitement about AI, but there's a need increasingly for us to sit back a little bit and say, does it actually work? And unfortunately, traditional, non-formal, non-scientific approaches seem to catch on and sell much better than the more structured, more costly approaches. I think what I see, Ruth, is that I see a trend towards AI becoming more expensive. The translation, the moving AI from what works to actually utilizing it by patients and caregivers. Okay, let's start with the developer. The developer has an interest. The interest is to make profit. The user has an interest. The interest is to get their mental health treated.
Yeah.
The provider has an interest. The interest is to make his work more smooth, more functional, but maybe to actually cut costs from my perspective, cost of providing care.
Yeah.
So that balance is a difficult one to strike. So yes, AI, the excitement is going to come, but I think we need to look a little bit into the future and ask who's going to pay for it.
True. Yeah.
Who's going to pay for the cost that will inevitably come with these apps coming up?
Yeah. So, as a mental health expert, are you somehow threatened by the fact that there is this robot, there is this thing that is doing the things that you're supposed to be doing? Do you feel that maybe AI is taking over your work and helping the time that you should have spent to diagnose a patient and earn something out of it? It's being taken up by another anonymous thing that you don't even know whether it's magic or it exists or not.
So, sorry, you have to ask the question a little bit differently. Are you wondering whether this AI is an opportunity to make work much less?
No, like do you think it's something that is going to take your work away from
Oh, yeah,
you and
okay, as
render
in
you
take over
redundant?
my job, the human
Yes.
job.
Yeah.
And this is an interesting one. I think I am scared of AI because everybody is telling me to be scared of AI.
Yeah.
In part because I have a lot of stuff that I've accumulated, which is in me over the years through interaction, tried and tested. We invested a lot of time in testing what works and what doesn't work.
In money, yes.
So we are at a point where, for example, I do a lot of talk therapy, approaches that involve me talking and listening. So AI is doing the talking, it's doing the listening. So I freak out. Yeah, I should freak out. But I think there are aspects that AI is unlikely to replace in the long term. One is the cost of AI and adopting AI. The second one is that we are social animals by nature. Human beings are social animals. That we are defined by socialization.
Yeah.
So because we are defined by socialization, unless we get to a point where the robot or AI becomes the equivalent of a human being, then maybe that's the point where we should all freak out eventually. Maybe it will be a good thing. The other aspect which is very important to consider is, again, the fact that there's a level of accountability that comes with interacting with a human being. There's a level of accountability, there's a level of confidentiality, there's a level of privacy, there's a level of interactiveness that actually adds to improved well-being. For example, you can have two different patients. One goes to a very junior psychiatrist or health worker. The other goes to a very highly specialized psychiatrist like myself. And they get more value for money and more healing out of. So the question is, what is it? What is the ingredient? What is the recipe that makes you get better when you interact with AI versus a human being?
Yeah.
So these comparisons across the two contexts have not been made as far as AI is concerned versus mental health. So what works is still a question we are asking for the interactive. Then what works for AI is a question that is still unanswered. It's virgin. So yeah, I think as far as jobs are concerned, anybody who is working in the era of AI-enabled technology, data-driven science, should be worried that if they are not involved at all with AI, because you get knocked out at different levels.
Definitely.
Levels
Yeah.
of assessment, which AI can actually do, as we know.
Perfectly, yes.
Perfectly, even better.
Yes, yes.
Level of treatment. Treatment, maybe it's a 50-50. For more surgeries and the like, AI is really sweeping them out of the job. Then the level of prevention. Prevention can happen with AI to the maximum, which can't happen very well with physical interactive. Social emotional, the need for social emotional involvement to influence change in a person is something that is very time consuming. And so I think that maybe AI still doesn't have a lot of competition at the treatment level. But at the screening, at the prevention level, there's a potential that AI will overtake.
But do you know that I think it's somewhat reaching the treatment level. So treatment is all about telling you uh, what medicines to buy, and you walk into a pharmacy and get them, or you what they describe prescribes for you the medication you're supposed to take, and then you get it delivered to your, so that definitely kicks the psychiatrist out of the job market. Again, out of curiosity, have you heard of any success stories, or like someone has come to you and told you, wow, I wasn't feeling well, so I interacted with this chatbot, I interacted with AI, and I feel better, I feel good, like I feel like I've seen a physical psychiatrist. Is that something that you've seen before or had before?
I think, unfortunately, I don't have access to this information when it comes to patients. What I can tell you is that during lockdown, a lot of patients I treated, I actually assessed, diagnosed, and treated them on phone, describing what's going on with them using WhatsApp and the like. And I think the opportunities for telemedicine are utilized that. Which does not translate very much. It's a form of technology, but maybe does not translate very much into the diagnostics that we are exploring as far as AI is concerned, to diagnose a problem accurately. It still needed me. But what I see is that, as myself, I found that during the advent of lockdown and COVID-19, and taught me how to find information more efficiently. But also this translated into better mental wellness for myself.
Yeah.
So I started looking a lot more into deciding how best to approach patient care based on the data that was informed by utilizing AI. What I also know is that a number of patients who we treat, for example, because our cultural setting in Africa is very interactive. You know, I give you medication, and because we are very few psychiatrists or mental health specialists, the interactive is actually not happening. If it is happening, it is very limited. And if it is happening, sometimes, you know, too much of anything does not always mean it is better. So there's a lot of quantitative interaction with health workers, but qualitatively, the difference that AI would make may not be what we achieve through physical interaction.
Yeah.
So I know that, for example, most of the patients that I see, I have to teach them how to find information
Online.
over and above the assessment and diagnosis. Because I realize I don't have time for the more structured treatments that I should give after the diagnosis has been made, after I've decided this is what you're suffering from. So I think, why? Why do I think it may be working for even the patients that I haven't gotten feedback from is that the beauty is that a lot more patients don't find a need to come back. And they're better. So maybe it's because I've given them an opportunity, or because of lockdown and the new buzz towards AI, is that they found ways of addressing their mental health problems, especially through knowledge.
Yeah.
What is a big challenge for us, especially in African context, is mental health literacy and skills are very limited. Literacy is mental health knowledge. So what do you know about mental health in a useful way? AI now tells you what you should know about mental health in a useful way. If you know about mental health in a useful way, informed by AI, the next level is that we are seeing a trend for AI actually skilling you. You can now use AI to determine how to self-talk. You can use AI to determine how you eat in a healthy way. You can use AI to determine how you can improve your sleep.
Yeah.
You can use AI to determine your physical wellness, exercise, using the apps, monitor your blood pressure and your weight and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But you can also use AI to cut down excesses in life. Am I drinking too much? Or I'm drinking too little? Am I drinking too much coffee or too little coffee? So I think if you talk self-care, I know for a fact that apps that I have used before, knowingly or unknowingly, have structured my self-care needs as an individual. So I think, yes, we preach AI beyond, over and above, and it should be something that should be popularized. That you can't always come to see me because it is expensive. I can't always have the time because it's not feasible because of numbers. But more importantly, AI gives you an opportunity to retain the information and use it for much longer than the talk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that's impressive. Are there any downsides, probably, of the self-diagnosis using AI that you know of as a psychiatrist?
Apps that self-diagnose?
Yeah. Any
Well,
downsides? Yeah.
I'm not. I don't know how to answer this question. There are many, but because I don't focus on particular AI, what I can say, for example, is that there are online tools which are AI enabled to determine caseness, how sick you are or how sick you are not, using, for example, color markers.
Yes.
If you hit red after describing this,
Yeah.
For example, we have a tool, the patient health questionnaire.
Is it an application or it's just?
It's a web-based. You could download it as a PDF and then score. but you could also find it on the internet.
Okay.
So you can score yourself for depression. It tells you how severe your depression is.
What is it? What's it called again?
Sorry?
What is it called again?
Sorry?
The web-based application that you mentioned. Is it?
It's a tool. It's a tool that you could use as just, like a normal Google search.
Okay.
So it's not an app in the strict sense.
Okay. Yeah.
But you could actually score yourself the online version. I don't know whether that makes sense.
Yes, it does.
So rather than download, print, and fill. So you could score yourself using the online version. That's what I can say. But I think there are also the chatbot. A lot of these things are telling people what they can do or not do. So I think part of my hesitation as a psychiatrist in recommending some of these apps has been the fact that most times I think patients that require me or my care or specialist care may struggle to utilize the first place. So you're so unwell that AI may not be the first thing on your mind.
Yeah.
But also that beyond assessment. So the question is, why screen if you're not going to do anything about it? So I'm unlikely to be formally recommending AI for assessment. No, for assessment, yes. Screening, yes. But maybe for treatment, I might be very hesitant because the evidence has not yet arrived at my door.
Yeah.
Wow.
You see, I'm very excited about the future, especially in this era of AI and whatnot. Because in the work that we do at Gender Tech, we support women as part of the work to help quell down online violence. So I believe that in the future, because right now getting the perpetrators of online violence has proved to be difficult. But I know in the long run, with the way things are progressing, we will be able to get the people inflict online violence, like technology facilitated gender-based violence on women. Is there any maybe mental health future technology developments that you're excited about, apart from the self-diagnosis, maybe the self-assessments that people are doing right now?
Opportunities for AI for the future.
Yeah, in your field as a psychiatrist.
I think the number of opportunities we could discuss beyond assessment and screening. I think one of the opportunities that we could discuss is that we have what we call profiling, risk profiling. So, for example, now we are now discussing what are the critical medicines that you might need if you have depression. So what happens is that the AI generates your social demographics, your demographics. And it says, if your demographic is like this, if they profile you to meet a certain categorization, based on age, based on background, based on the different demographic stuff. AI profiles you based on some of your physical attributes. AI may profile you based on your treatment, past treatments, past episodes of, say, mental illness. And it will give you a best fit. So it gives you a best fit treatment, which is tailored to the individual. It's no longer dependent on the psychiatrist guessing or saying, according to my experience.
Yeah.
So that's one window of opportunity to AI, that AI will profile people according to risk, according to treatment responses, and they choose you a best fit. The second window of opportunity, which I see AI may bring on board, is that AI provides us a window of opportunity for simulation. Simulation in the sense that, for example, if I cannot interact with a psychiatrist, there's a next best equivalent, which is probably affordable.
Yeah.
And is as good except the human being. So there's a next best fit. So we are about to come up, we will soon, and I think we've arrived there, where there's a next best fit where there's no psychiatrist. It used to be trained lay health workers. Okay? Actual lay health workers, VHTs in the Ugandan context.
Yeah.
But now we are saying, what if that next best fit is actually an app? An AI-enabled app tool.
Yes.
That eliminates the need for human resource, but also decreases the burden of care from the perspective of the health workers, the skilled labor. But also more importantly, the systems of healthcare. What it takes to get from point A, B to C and eventually arrive at healthcare is a huge cost consideration. So what if AI could potentially replace the need to task shift to actual human beings, lay health workers, which is what Minister of Health and developing countries are adopting now.
Yeah.
It's a lay health worker-led intervention, a task shift, task share model. What if AI could task share and be the task shift we want to do going forward? So I think this is a big window of opportunity. What I also see is that the potential for AI to make healthcare systems more functional is increasing in the sense that sometimes you think you are working. People like audits, like real-time audits. AI will tell you for the last 6 months, the approach you've been using has resulted into more patient deaths, more suicides, more default.
Wow.
What if AI could tell you take this direction based on the data that it has gathered over the last 6 months? And I think that's a window of opportunity, that AI will soon inform how healthcare systems, mental health care systems run. The final one, which I can think about, is that AI, there's lots of litigation, people being sued for not doing things right. A lot of this comes with physical interactive. You said you were going to see a patient at midday and it didn't happen for some reason, and then the patient sues you.
Yeah.
So AI now gives you an opportunity for, I don't have to commit myself if I can't handle, because the AI is going to, it's a halfway house.
Yeah.
So there's a halfway housing that it gives an opportunity for the need for less interaction going forward. And so that's what I can say about AI. Of course, the flip side is that if AI replaced the human interactive, then we will lose out on the most important thing that makes us human beings,
Yeah.
which is that we are social animals and we must maintain some level of interaction. And the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Right.
Some level of interactive is important. I don't want to have a fight with an AI that I can't hit back.
Right. Yeah, because with AI it's also very funny. You try to uninstall it from this from your device, and because there are cookies. You know what cookies do? Cookies, they keep track of your browser history. So because you've signed in several accounts, and you signed in with AI on this particular device, so when you open your laptop thinking you have uninstalled it on this phone of yours, it's going to pop up on the other device because it has your history of, it's going to show up in your face. So there is no way you can actually run away from it. It's still going to show up in your face, and whether you like it or not. Yeah. So I wanted us to talk about social media. Social media vis-a-vis mental health. I've had uh, discussions and chats with friends. You know how you are in your home, you're doing something, and then you see things online that either makes your mental health better or makes them worse. And then we've seen people who look too good on social media. They are starting, like something is too good to be true. Someone is looking good, like something is looking good on social media, but deep down inside they are battling with something that they've not been able to talk about. And then 2 3 days later you hear that, oh, so and so passed, so and so passed. Then you'll be surprised. I just saw her sending out a post about an update about her life a few days ago. What could have happened? What do you make of this whole scenario of us putting up appearances that deep down we are dealing with mental issues that we can't actually talk about?
I think that's a very interesting one. I think if you move away from the depth of AI a bit and talk about social media, any exposure to screen,
Yes.
it could be a mobile phone, it could be internet, it could be anything that portrays information that is potentially visible to everyone and anybody. I think social media and mental health has, like you said, two aspects of the same coin. On the one hand, social media may give you a window of opportunity to actually compare compare yourself with a standard
Yeah.
that may be helpful. Like if you have an influencer on social media, that gives you positive self-talk. If you're talking of Oprah Winfrey, you're probably going to take positive stuff out of that, listening to her. If you're talking, there's this guy. What's this guy's name?
Does it have an
It
name?
was Romanian. He's a Romanian, but he's very anti-homo, anti-establishment generally. So you have this guy who is a social media, he's an influencer, but he's very anti-establishment, anti-everything. So if you're exposed to this kind
Like
of
it's
material,
pretty much against everything.
yeah.
Yeah.
So then it then becomes the bad aspect of social media. But I think that on the whole, there has been a big challenge now with regulation. For example, children and screen time. You talk about screen time, social media. The average time a child should spend on social screen time, any form of social media or screen, is actually 2 hours and 24. 2 out of 24 hours. And now we are talking about how we can allow mobile phones in schools and all that.
Yeah.
So the question is, this runs counter. In Kenya, they're fighting. In the UK, it's really becoming taken on a life of its own.
Yeah.
So I think too much of social media has one obvious consequence: a deterioration of your mental health. Because it's interfering with the interactive, it is interfering with your sleep, you're getting exposed to a lot of negative information. Because unfortunately, misinformation sells more than the right information.
Yeah.
In social media.
Controversy sells more than.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. So what catches on, what triggers people is the negatives more than the positive. So that balance has to be struck. At what level and who strikes the balance? Some people think it is the companies like Meta, X, and the like. But some people also have thought that regulation needs to happen with governments. With governments. But that does not take away the fact that regulation should happen at the individual level. You should know what type of information to expose yourself to and regulate. But of course, I think the question of whether parents can regulate is a big one, especially for adolescents. There's a lot of radicalization that happens on social media. Unfortunately, there's no time limit to how long you need to be exposed to negative disinformation to be twisted. So, but from a mental health preventive perspective, if you go to the right place with the right information, there's a window of opportunity for that to improve mental wellness. If you go to the wrong place, there's a window of vulnerability to actually make your problems, mental health problems, worse. So I think the question of regulation of who decides what is helpful or unhelpful is not. If you look at social media, you have to define it in 4 important ways. Is it harmful to your mental health? Is it harmless to your mental health? So whatever exposure, it won't change a thing. It doesn't change the dollar rate.
Yeah.
Is it useful? This is what we're discussing. How useful could social media be towards somebody's mental health?
Yeah.
And the last one is it useless? I mean, it just takes away your time, burns you. So the 4 aspects of determining level of harm is important as far as social media is concerned. And I think a lot more effort should be at the usefulness or the harmlessness of social media to counteract the uselessness and the harmfulness of social media. Striking that balance is not easy. Again, it still falls back to the individual, choosing what to expose yourself to.
As we are in an era where people actually making money off being consistent on social media, that has also exposed us to. You talked about people feeding more on negative thoughts, on negativity, because it sells more than the good deeds, you know. Yeah, so I think this has also made people to tend to be constant online because of the need to also make a living out of it. And in the mix, as they try to be online and make a living out of it, they're also consuming other the content that is affecting their mental health. I asked this. I brought this in the context of us portraying things online that are not actually online, that are not actually happening in our real lives. For example, you might be going through something right now, like you're stressed, you're depressed, and then you see that Ruth is happy, or maybe our producer is happy, has posted something so nice, and that gets to you. It feels like, okay, I think I'm not better. My friends have gone ahead of me. I'm not doing well in life, and that sort of gets into you and affects your mental health. So, as your parting shots, what would you say to someone who is in that bubble, like they are making the things that they see online to dictate how they feel about themselves?
I think this is, thank you, this is a good question. It's a question that I've had to deal with as far as adolescents, young people especially are concerned. That the concept, I think, which I thought about and I relate with is the weight of expectation.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, weight of expectation is something that starts very early in our upbringing. Parents, for example, you should be like so and so. If you don't, you should measure up, should work harder instead of work smarter. And so the the means, the only way you can access in a very structured way the difference between you and other people is actually social media. The pictures that people upload on Facebook, on Twitter, X, Instagram is really what makes you appreciate or notice that there are actually differences between you. Back in the days when we never had social media, it was very easy. The context was relatively the same. It was relatively structured. And so now people have found structure on social media and unstructuredness out of social media. That disconnect, again, with the idea of weight of expectation, has made it very difficult. So the question of how do we guard against measuring oneself against what social media portrays is I think we need to de-emphasize social media as a form of interaction.
Yeah, not a measure of success, or
Yes.
how far someone has
Yeah.
gone in life.
I'm one of those that is guilty. I mean, I spend a healthy amount of time on my phone.
Yeah.
What I do differently is I try to make sure that it is useful or completely useless. In other words, it's something that I'm using to burn time. I don't have enough sleep, so maybe I'm bored, redundant. So I think you need to self-regulate. I think the word is self-regulate,
Yes.
what you do with and on social media. So if you can self-regulate, that's important. But also I think there are a lot of windows of opportunity to use social media in a way that can improve your mental wellness. There are so many useful programs on social media. Music, for example, even movies that are very motivating. A comedy is always uplifting.
Because you get to laugh.
Yeah. So there are things people could do on social media that would distract from the same social media. So you choose where you go. The other thing I always tell people is that it's very important before you access social media to understand that you are going into an uncharted territory. And it may potentially put you at risk. So for example, it's not what you see on social media that makes it what it is. It is what you think before you go to social media that makes it what you see.
Yeah. That's a very
It's not
good
what you
point.
see on social media that makes it what it is. But it is what you think before you go to social media that makes you what it is. So I have this thing always in my back of my mind that I will choose content based on what I've chosen before I go to social media. For example, a lot of people like to forward accidents. People have been beaten to death, violence, somebody's child is being beaten up, accidents, the bus accidents. And I have a default mode not to forward, a default mode to delete, a default mode not to discuss what I have seen visually. Because the mind is very powerful.
And then also not to let it affect your mood at that particular time.
Yeah, because I mean, the thing is that, let's put it this way, Ruth, you're a person that knows, As a psychiatrist, I treat trauma. So I know that I have survived, thrived, treating traumatized people for the over 18 years because I learned how to listen with my empathy part of my brain, not sympathy, which would get me into emotional turmoil. So I can listen to stories about trauma and not get traumatized. So you could also be exposed to social media that is potentially disruptive of your mental health and still not get disrupted by it because you have conditioned yourself beforehand. Interestingly, a lot of people that actually get disorganized or disrupted by exposure to social media have developed a craving for it.
Yeah, they've made it a norm.
Yeah. I mean, because the idea is that must you relive it in order to relive it? That must you be exposed to something for you to feel better about it? And so that disconnect is partly why social media can be disruptive for those who actually get affected by it. It's because they haven't thought beforehand how to deal with what they're going to find and the fact that it is unregulated.
Yeah.
That brings us to the idea of regulating what happens on social media. It's a big one. It's a big one because, like I said, the different levels of regulation. I think governments have a duty to regulate potentially disruptive stuff that is on social media, including the people like Mark
Yeah.
Zuckerberg.
Zuckerberg.
I mean, he has a duty to regulate what happens on Meta, Facebook. And I think they have been put to task to make sure that they take responsibility, like the Telegram guy who was arrested because it was a channel for spreading misinformation, recruiting wrong people.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's the thing. It's we can't do away with social media,
Yeah.
but we can do something about how it affects us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a very important point as we wrap up. We can't do away with social media, but we can determine how the whatever we consume affect us, because that in the long run translates into mental health issues. That again the circle continues. You end up getting online, you get diagnosed, and before you know it, we are all still in the same circle and not really getting out of the bubble. Otherwise, I would like to appreciate you for your time and for your very knowledgeable discussion. It was really very amazing, and I'm sure our audience has also learned a lot from your expertise. Any parting shots from you? Any last words that you'd like to tell our viewers?
Well, I would like to thank you for the opportunity to have this discussion about mental health and meta AI. Sometimes we don't think about the connect. We think about the disconnect more. I think we need to all be thinking about the connect.
Yeah.
What's the fit between mental health and AI and how it can potentially improve your mental health or well-being, but it can also potentially be disruptive. So it's important to look at it from both sides of the coin. And my final thoughts about AI is that people need to be, versus mental health, people need to be very careful. A lot of people are marketing AI as a window of opportunity to diagnose mental health. But there needs to be checks and balances because AI can be manipulated
Yeah.
by different people. I could manipulate AI, and my AI app sounds like I'm an expert, when at the back of it, I'm not actually an expert. Finally, the danger of AI is that it has potential to open a Pandora box. But what we know is not the potential to close the Pandora box. So if you're opening up your emotions to the world, let me use the word world because AI is on the internet, the potential for closure is limited with AI, but the opportunities for closure is more likely to happen with the physical interactive. So I think the parting shot is to leave you with the debate in your mind about what is the fit, what's the disconnect. Thank you.
Yeah, well, what's the fit and what's the disconnect? Well, that is a very way to close up a very good discussion like this. Otherwise, to our listeners and to our viewers, this brings us to the end of this very important discussion that we had. I really had a good time. I don't know if you did too. talking about AI and mental health because it's the in thing right now. So we really need to get put our ensure that our listeners are also informed about this particular topic. And to you, our viewers, we are available on all social media platforms. You can find us on Twitter, which is X now. You can find us on Instagram. You can find us on Facebook. Just type at the Gender Tech Podcast, and we'll be right there and to interact, share our posts, like our posts, and that is how we get our message to reach a wider audience. Until then, it's been nice having you on the show. Thank you.